HBCU game day conversations, and boy, there's breaking news, and then there's what happened today. Word came out that Lynn Thompson, longtime athletic administrator at Bethune Cookman University, former Wildcat player, decided that this year, at the end of his contract, he would not renew any further. We couldn't sit on this one. HBCU Game Day has an exclusive interview with the man himself. 30 plus years at the helm of Bethune Cookman University Athletics, 71 championships later. And we have with us Lynn Thompson. Lynn, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, Vaughn, and so glad to spend this time with you as always, man. I did not realize that this announcement, which I thought might be just a simple one, would create such a groundswell of support and and bring back so many years that I'd forgotten. But nonetheless, I'm so glad to be here with you.
Now, Lynn, you were hired as the youngest athletic director in Division I, and you were the longest tenured athletic director in Division I. You brought stability to the program. Just talk about what it took to take the program from where it was when you took over to where it is today.
Well, Vaughn, that's a tough question, but I think first of all, I had the benefit at Bethune Cookman of having a Tank Johnson and a Cy McLaren in the same building, and those are the two guys who are iconic leaders, and they trusted me. In fact, they were my mentors, and had served in that same capacity for decades. And when they passed the baton to me, I certainly was able to call on them and ask their opinion on some moves that I would make. But more importantly, they trusted my leadership. And through the years, the institution, Dr. Oswald Bronson, made it clear to me that it was my program to run. They held me responsible for some of the budgetary requirements. But from a visionary standpoint, they wanted me to chart the course. And as an institution, we made an institutional decision several years ago to basically utilize athletics and the band and the performing arts units as the front porch of the university from a marketing and promotional and recruiting standpoint. And it worked. It allowed us to use the brand of Bethune Cookman in a new capacity as Intercollegiate Athletics was able to mushroom across the nation, much like Notre Dame did, much like UCLA and FAMU did. And we followed a blueprint. You and I have talked about this many times. We followed the blueprint that Walter Reed put in place, that many other universities put in place, Grambling, Tennessee State. And Bethune invested in it, and it brought us students, but it also allowed us, a school our size, to really enjoy success annually, athletically. And we grew our programs, and we started, believe it or not with the major football and basketball and revenue-producing sport programs, but we started with the Olympic sports, and that's where the annual success became really traditional, and it became almost like a pandemic, so to speak. It was contagious. And something about success athletically, it is contagious, and it spread throughout the department. And once you get a taste of success and victory, and you understand what the formula is and what it takes, it was very easy to duplicate and replicate within the department. And the institution invested in it because it brought about an awareness in the marketplace, but more importantly, it brought students to the institution.
And that's a very great point that you make, that coming from a smaller institution, it's very interesting that people don't know that Notre Dame is not this large institution, right, because their brand is humongous. Right. People don't know that Bethune Cookman is a moderate sized college because you were able to expand that brand. So I understand exactly what you mean by expanding the brand. And you understood that brand so well that the university entrusted you not only with athletics communications, but I've seen you working on videos for the university, the one where you had the voice of Mary McLeod Bethune, it's still eerie to this day, like, wow, that was Mary McLeod Bethune. But you being a son of Bethune-Cookman, you understood what the university needed, not just the athletic department.
Yeah, Vaughn, and much like you in Tallahassee, when you are of the soil and it's in your DNA, you know, it's almost a part of what you do, and it's an indigenous type thing. It's a reaction that you just come about naturally, you know, and so it's almost it's so natural to understand and to anticipate what the needs of the institution could be. Although we do make data-driven decisions, when you talk about the history of this institution and HBCUs, when you can rely on those who are of the soil and who have the expertise and the skill to bring that history to light, regardless of which generation or which demographic you're trying to reach, you're able to keep that history alive and maintain its relevance. And we were able to capture that history and take it into an athletics arena and use that as a recruiting tool. But even though we use it as a recruiting tool, we also used it to motivate our athletic teams and our Wildcat Nation. And much like you guys have done at Florida A&M in Tallahassee, much like Grambling has done and other HBCUs, and even when you look outside the HBCU world, Fight On with Southern Cal, the Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech, whatever that iconic rally cry is, or whatever is so special and unique and indigenous to that institution, if you keep it alive and relevant, it will do what it's been called to do, to generate momentum, school spirit, and to recruit new students to that institution.
Wow. And talking about the path that you took to elevate Bethune-Cookman, and you just mentioned it. You started with the Olympic sports, and let's talk about the juggernaut that you created with baseball. Merville Melendez had that team ready to face anyone, and the team did, and the tradition continued. But that was kind of an uncommon path to take baseball and make it as dominant as Bethune-Cookman did with baseball.
You're right. You know, back in the day, Dean John B. Knight really started this program. He was the dean of men at Bethune-Cookman, and back in the day when the Bill Lucas and the Lucas guys and the Aaron boys were up there, Andre Dawson, when we were in the SIAC, it always boiled down to Bethune and FAMU winning the SIAC even then. And then when we get to the modern times, Florida State had a great baseball program, and the NCAA rules changed, and they had to let a coach go. And we were looking for a coach, and I'll tell you what, we got a call, you know, and there was a coach by the name of Brian Reese who was at Florida State and was let go because the rules changed and they had to reduce the coaching size. And Brian Reese came to Bethune-Cookman, not only as a baseball coach, but as a physical education teacher. And Brian takes over our program, and he recruits a kid by the name of Merville Melendez. And Brian Reese really gets us to our first MEAC championship. And then Brian Reese leaves to go to Arkansas Little Rock. Well, his captain of the baseball team and an All-American was a third baseman by the name of Merville Melendez. And so Brian leaves, and he was going to take Merville with him to Arkansas Little Rock as his grad assistant. And we make the decision to keep Merville along with us and make him an assistant coach under our interim coach, Richard Skill, to groom Merville, because Merville had exhibited those leadership skills while he was here. A year and a half later, Merville Melendez takes over, probably as the youngest Division I baseball coach in America. And boy, was that a great decision, because history proved us right. What he did was set tremendous records, which probably may never be broken in the MEAC, a string of championships. Merville goes on to Alabama State, now to FIU, produced draft choices, Major League Baseball players, academic All-Americans, and it was the best thing that we could have done. But we created a pipeline internally of producing top-notch student athletes who wanted to coach, who understood what it meant to be a part of the program. And when you are able to do that and create that lineage within your programs, you're onto something.
Well, another thing that you all did was capitalize off of the resources that were there. Now, the common concept in athletics is to get the brand new, bright, shiny thing. But one thing I love about Bethune Cookman, I mean, I know the basketball programs grew, and sometimes we had to go to the Ocean Center. But there is nothing like those battles in historic Moore Gymnasium. The atmosphere in there is probably unmatched. And there were some great FAMU, Bethune. I know there were great other team games in there. But when FAMU and Bethune played in Moore Gymnasium, I mean, you could cut the intensity with a knife.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. As a matter of fact, Moore Gymnasium probably is the only Division I athletics facility for basketball that, other than maybe at Butler and maybe at Duke, that qualifies for Social Security. We call it historic Moore Gymnasium. We still play in it, as you know, but you are absolutely right. Those games against FAMU and BCU in Moore Gymnasium are a sight to behold. One visiting coach says that when you walk in Moore Gym, you are down 10 points already because of the environment. And we make sure that we brand it the right way, that it is an intense place to play. Now, it is tough when you come in there from a recruiting standpoint, but our student athletes would not want to play anywhere else but in Moore Gymnasium. And we create that environment simply to make sure that it is a hostile environment for visiting teams to play, but the most lovable environment for the Wildcat Nation and the Wildcat student athletes. And that's what you expect to develop a home court advantage. And that is what college athletics is really all about. You know, some schools get caught up in this arms race where every year you got to make things bigger and better. But at the end of the day, I don't care if it's FAMU, Bethune Cookman, Grambling, UCLA, colleges and universities, Vaughn, are made of two simple things: buildings and people. And while some people get caught up in what the buildings look like, the things that have the most impact on a student and a student athlete's life happen to be the people. And that is what we at Bethune Cookman have been most fortunate to have. And the team that we have built in Wildcat Athletics has been the people who have transformed the lives of those student athletes. And so when you talk about the 71 championships and all those magical milestone moments, it's based on the people that were called to do this great work in this ministry we call BCU Wildcat Athletics.
And Lynn, you know, a piece of history for those who don't know, the first person to score ever in the Florida Classic is none other than Lynn Thompson. Kicked the field goal in 1978 to help put the Wildcats up on the Rattlers. And we won't go into that story because we're celebrating we're celebrating him today.
And then Albert Chester ruined it all. From High School in Jacksonville, Florida, when he led the Rattlers on this miraculous comeback in the second half. You're right.
Well, you start there, you know, your career there, and then now you've maintained to help build the program up to coaches that passed it down to a 9-game winning streak in the Florida Classic, which is, you know, I know there are classics that have more attendance numbers, but this is the classic that the schools own. There's not a sponsor that owns it. There's not a city that owns it. The two actual schools are the beneficiaries of the Florida Classic. And just talk about the importance of the Florida Classic.
Well, first of all, I want to give let's just give Tank Johnson and Hansel Toots their just due, because those two guys came up with this idea. You know, and it all happened when we came to Bragg Stadium and finally beat FAMU in 1973. After all those years, we beat FAMU in Tallahassee, And then the next year, when FAMU came to Daytona Beach, we could not afford to host FAMU at Memorial Stadium at the time. And so Tank Johnson came up with the concept of playing at the Daytona International Speedway, and 30-some thousand people at the Speedway. And so the very next year, my freshman year, we ended up playing at Doak Campbell Stadium. Then the following year, we go to the Citrus Bowl. But then my senior year, we moved to the neutral site. They pitched the idea to Tampa, Florida, with help from the governor's office, and the Florida Classic is hosted at Tampa Stadium. And it found its home in the middle of the state of Florida for years until the game then found its ultimate home in the city beautiful Orlando. And Vaughn, I think it's safe to say that it has become this annual tradition that more importantly is owned by the Florida Classic Consortium, which is a 501c3, which is controlled and owned by both Florida A&M and Bethune Cookman University. And what a partnership. And it is a partnership that is envied all around America because it happens to be one of the only athletic partnerships between two institutions who share 50-50 in an event of this magnitude. We have been called and contacted by so many other universities to say, how do you do it? How do you guys do business together? We just happen to be a brother and a sister university who happen to do battle one day a year. And as soon as the game is over, we get together and we count the money, and then we invest it to bring students back to our respective campuses. And it's a wonderful concept, and it's a shame that nobody else around America can duplicate it.
Absolutely, Lynn. When I left FAMU, there was one question. People asked me, what would you miss most? What event would you miss most, or also did you enjoy the best? And I know everyone thought I was going to say the Florida Classic, but I said the MEAC softball tournament in Ormond Beach, hosted by Bethune Cookman. People cannot imagine the Mother's Day celebrations we did there, just the family atmosphere, the excitement. And it was always FAMU and Bethune in the final day. And then Lynn would get somebody to go down New Smyrna Beach and catch us up some fresh grouper and cook that grouper out there. Basically, for anybody who was in the audience, that atmosphere, how important was it for you to make that atmosphere at Bethune Cookman as a gracious host?
Well, my father taught me this. He said, son, if you don't have family, you ain't got nothing. And I think one thing that you can find in the HBCU world, I don't care which conference is in, I don't care which institution it is. At the end of the day, that's a family, and if you are hosting something, you have to show some level of hospitality, and you've got to be able to welcome people. And I think in our culture, you got to be in a position to feed everybody. Because if you can't feed somebody, then what good is it to welcome them to your neck of the woods if you're not going to feed them? And but Vaughn, you are absolutely right. That Ormond Beach tournament was an opportunity for us to just open our arms to the entire conference. It happening to fall on Mother's Day, and we just open up and bring all the seafood out and say, whoever wants to come eat, come eat. But I'll tell you that Mother's Day mix that you did as the DJ was important. But the most important thing for me was the graduation ceremony. But when the team circled up in celebration of the mothers, when the mothers got the chance to throw out the first pitch of the game to their daughters, that means it's bigger than just a game. And through the realm of athletics, we teach sportsmanship and so many other values that we also reaffirm and reemphasize that are taught in the home that so many other kids don't get a chance to understand. The team, the huddle, those things means so much to so many people. And it's been a blessing for me and to be a manager of so many teams for so many generations. And when you look at it, Vaughn, as an athlete, and you know this, there have been no greater moments than to spend in the locker room or in the team huddle or traveling when you put together a group of students and student athletes from places that you've never heard of, but they get together on one accord to really execute a strategy together to win, and where the name on the front of the jersey is as important as the name on the back of the jersey. You know, and you talk about school pride, family pride, and unity. There's nothing negative about anything there. And those life lessons carry them the rest of their lives. That means that we're teaching championship values in intercollegiate athletics, and nothing can beat that. And that's what I'm most proud of, that we've been able to do it at Bethune Cookman University. And that is one of the things that I think that I may miss here, but our coaching staff, our student support staff, and our student athletes, I pray that it has now become a part of their DNA, that as they enter to learn, depart to serve, and return to invest in this legacy at Bethune-Cookman, that it will continue to perpetuate itself.
Well, now everybody knows a lot about Lynn Thompson as VP and Director of Athletics, but I happen to know you got a mighty pen. I heard you've been doing some writings and things like that. Tell us a little bit about what you've written.
Well, I mean, before I became athletics director, I worked at PBS, and I've been writing my whole adult life. So, you know, I've published a lot of things. I've written a lot of stuff that you see at Bethune-Cookman University. But we've got some creative things that are coming out, and I'm excited about a lot of those things. And that's another part of my life when I said that I really wanted to take advantage of some new opportunities on the horizon for me personally and professionally. I really needed to pause and to move into the direction that God is leading me into. And some of those involve some of these creative projects that are now beginning to materialize. My daughter is an award-winning director in New York City, and she has been tugging at me to partner with her on some of these creative things. My son, who is the director of athletic marketing at Tulane University, has done some innovative things at his job and in his spare time. He is an artist. And so we are an artistic family. My youngest child she's involved in those projects with both of them. And so even as a family, there's some things that we are doing, but you know, I just wanted to make sure that I'm available and to consider some opportunities that have been tugging at me, and I wanted to let God lead me. And I just think right now that now is the best time for me, you know, to really end this season here. We've done a great work at Bethune-Cookman, and this work will continue. We've planted some great seeds. We've got a great staff here, and we look forward to supporting Bethune-Cookman and the HBCU world in any way that we possibly can. And I'm just so grateful and blessed to have developed a network of support and have been a support person for so many people. And I'm honored at the responses that I'm getting. And I'm honored to be your friend for so many years. And because people don't realize this, that my idol in this business was your dad, my homeboy.
Mm-hmm. And you know, it's kind of weird because, you know, in the journalism world, they kind of frown when you interview somebody you know personally. But I told the guys at HBCU game day, none of you all could interview Lynn because none of you all know him like I do. You don't have time to research him. I already know him. And I thank you for all those years. You know, our families were close, like you and my father and my mom, and that's the HBCU world, man. It's the families continue to age and new generations come on. We remain united. And the last question before I let you get out of here, and it is, you navigated Bethune successfully in the MEAC for years. And now we've made this transition to the SWAC. Just talk about some of the successes and things that happened in this MEAC, and talk about what your vision is for Bethune Cookman and for the SWAC itself.
Well, for the MEAC, what a rich history of success. What a ripe network of constituents. And in the SWAC, we've been holding court negotiation. The first phone call I got today, believe it or not, was from court negotiator, who said he heard the news from you. But that network in the SWAC, some young, dynamic ADs in the SWAC, and Charles McClellan, a mover and a shaker, a deal cutter. The SWAC is clearly making waves and becoming a conference that is about to explode from a corporate standpoint on the national scene. ESPN, all the major Fortune 500 companies are taking interest in it. And I'm quite sure that same level of excitement and marketing potential will also really turn its attention back to the MEAC very soon. But I think that Bethune Cookman and FAMU moving to the SWAC will re-energize both of our fan bases. It opens up the Florida footprint for so many opportunities for the conference and for both institutions. And I think that from a competitive standpoint, I think that it will allow both institutions now to recruit in other areas, but unfortunately, it'll allow all those other schools to come to Florida to recruit. And I just think, Vaughn, that our fans already in Daytona Beach are so excited about hosting so many of these schools in Florida. Now, some of those schools were in the old SIAC.
Right.
There are other schools who they haven't seen before. I think the future is unlimited. One of my regrets is that I won't be there for every Saturday here in Daytona Beach. My plans are to be able to travel. Do you realize I've never been to Tallahassee to a regular season game to see FAMU play, other than if I was on the other sideline playing against FAMU. So my plans are to travel, if possible, to see some of these other games as a fan, because I think I owe it to myself and my family to do some of those things. And now is the right time to do it. It's a different thing when you don't have anything at stake in the game. You can just go there as a fan and steal somebody's tailgating food. And I'm looking forward to that, So I just think, man, this is the right time for me to do this. And I'm so happy that we are able to do it in this manner. And I want to thank our university, Bethune Cookman, from the trustee level to the cabinet level to the student athlete level, for trusting us, for allowing us to have the impact that we've had, and for believing in what we were doing and buying into the vision.
All right. He came in as the youngest Division I athletic director in the country, and he leaves as one of the most experienced and accomplished athletic directors. 71 conference championships and numerous All-Americans, all-conference, and even more grads, and that's what's important in our HBCU world. Lynn Thompson, we want to thank you on behalf of HBCU Game Day for taking our call and getting on with us. We understand, we know, and thanks to Dan Ryan and what he's done. I know he's under the gun and under the weather, but we appreciate him for his professionalism and his help in facilitating this. we wish you the best. And by the way, we will be down there next week because we've got to talk to some of your coaches, some of the players and administrators. So we're on our way down to Daytona. I'm going to Bethune Grill. Make sure I get me some good wings. And HBCU Game Day, will back this up with a full coverage of one of the most accomplished athletic directors in HBCU history, Lynn Thompson.